As the Bills get ready to host the Saints, let's be honest, this matchup feels like two teams on completely different timelines. On one side, you've got Buffalo, a team with Super Bowl aspirations, battle-tested veterans, and a top-tier quarterback. On the other side, you've got New Orleans, rebuilding, reshuffling, and still figuring out who they are in the post-Drew Brees, post-Sean Payton era. That doesn't mean the Saints are a pushover, but if we're keeping it real, the gap between these two squads right now feels wide. Now, looking at the Saints, the vibe around that locker room heading into this game is uncertain, to say the least. Week 1 and 2, sure, they were scrappy. They played hard, kept games close, and looked like a team trying to punch above their weight. But Week 3, it was a disaster. Flat out embarrassing. They went to Seattle and got smacked. Not just beaten, humiliated. And when you're rolling with a rookie quarterback, a new head coach, and still trying to establish a culture, games like that, they leave a mark. They shake confidence. Spencer Rattler is getting the start again, and there's still plenty of debate about what his ceiling is. Some see a future starter. Others, a high-end backup at best. But what's clear is this. He's not being asked to win games. He's being asked not to lose them. Quick throws. Conservative reads. Protect the football. It's safe football, but it's also limiting. You're not stretching the field. You're not scaring defenses. And unless you've got a dominant run game or elite defense to back that up, you're going to struggle to keep up with teams like the Bills. Speaking of the run game, the Saints still have Alvin Kamara, but this isn't the same Kamara that used to keep defensive coordinators up at night. He's still got that elite balance and feel, but he's 30 now, and the usage is different. The screen game that used to be a huge weapon for him practically vanished. And that's less about him and more about the way this offense is designed. The Saints just haven't figured out how to get him rolling in the passing game the way they did when Brees was under center. That connection? It was automatic. Now it's more like a footnote. And then there's the receiver room. Chris Olave's name always comes up in trade rumors with teams like the Bills because of his speed and upside. But what's really holding him back is the offense itself. 10 catches for 57 yards? That's not a Chris Olave stat line. That's a running back's afternoon. But again, it's not on him. He's healthy. He's running routes. He's creating space. But the Saints aren't pushing the ball downfield. And when they do, it's often going to Rashid Shaheed, who's arguably the more dangerous vertical threat. That combo, two burners who thrive deep, is great on paper. But in practice, if your quarterback isn't letting it rip, or if your offensive line can't give him time, it just doesn't matter. The Saints' biggest problem right now isn't talent. It's identity. They're stuck between two phases, wanting to respect and lean on their veteran core, while also needing to develop young talent and figure out what they have. Cam Jordan is still grinding. Demario Davis still brings leadership. But those guys aren't going to be around forever. And while it's great to have vets in the building, you got to have the next generation stepping up, and fast. Now, one name that's quietly under some pressure is Mickey Loomis. He's been around longer than almost any GM in the league, but at what point do the Saints decide to hit the full reset button? They've already moved on from their legendary coach and quarterback. They're trying to reboot with new energy. But if you're still hanging on to the old front office leadership, are you really starting fresh? That's a question fans are starting to ask more loudly, especially after games like the one in Seattle. And look, when you're rebuilding in the NFL, it's always about the quarterback. Always. You can have a great defense. You can have explosive weapons. But if you don't have a guy under center who can lead you, it's just not going to work. That's why this year is so critical for the Saints. They're riding it out with Rattler for now, but don't be surprised if Tyler Shaw makes his debut as soon as Week 5. You can almost feel it. This matchup in Buffalo was circled from the moment the schedule came out as a game to just survive, not thrive. No rookie wants to make his first start in Orchard Park. It's hostile. It's loud. It's intense. But after this, the runway clears up a bit. From Buffalo's perspective, this is one of those games where the result matters, but so does the performance. This is a team with big-time aspirations. They've dominated early in the season, but the standard is sky high. 30 points a game is no longer impressive. It's expected. And while Josh Allen hasn't had to push the ball downfield much this season, this feels like the kind of matchup where the deep ball could come back into play. The Saints are vulnerable in the secondary. They've got young players, and the lack of a consistent pass rush makes them even more exposed. And speaking of pressure, if Chase Young doesn't suit up again, that's a massive problem. Cam Jordan is being asked to do too much at 35, and the scheme change to a 3-4 hasn't exactly been smooth. They're not getting to the quarterback. They're not creating turnovers. And if you give Allen time, it's game over. That's not an exaggeration. That's just the reality of facing one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in football. Defensively, the Saints are solid in the middle. They can stop the run. But once you get into the second and third levels of the field, there are holes, big ones. Linebackers getting lost in zone coverage. Safeties who aren't built to cover ground. Young corners still adjusting to the speed of the game. It's a defense that can be exploited, especially by a team with as many weapons as Buffalo. And that's where the game could tilt heavily in Buffalo's favor. Because the moment you start seeing those cracks defensively, Josh Allen is the kind of quarterback who's going to attack them relentlessly. If he senses hesitation from the linebackers, if the safeties bite too early, or if the corners start playing soft, that's when he uncorks a deep ball or starts extending plays with his legs. And when the Bills' offense finds rhythm, they don't just score, they avalanche. That's what the Saints have to prepare for. Not just the scheme or the matchups, but the emotional swing of playing a team that can flip a game in 5 minutes. That's why the Saints need a perfect start, not a decent one, not a field goal to open the game. They need a tone-setting drive, something that forces Buffalo to play honest, forces the crowd to sit down early, and gives that Saints sideline some belief. Because belief is fragile when you're a young team still learning how to win. And after a beatdown like they just took in Seattle, belief has to be rebuilt quickly. You cannot fall behind 10 or 14 points and expect that sideline to stay emotionally engaged. They need something good to happen early, or this game could snowball, just like the last one did. And here's the other thing about the Saints. They're not built to come from behind. The playbook shrinks when you're trailing by multiple scores. You stop running. You stop protecting the quarterback. And you start forcing throws. That's not Spencer Rattler's game. He needs structure. He needs balance. He needs a defense that keeps it close. If you ask him to play hero ball against this Bills defense, that's when the mistakes start piling up. And to be fair, it's not all on Rattler. The offensive line hasn't helped him much either. You got a rookie at left tackle, backups on the right side, and communication issues all over the place. That leads to penalties, protection breakdowns, and moments where the quarterback has no shot. Even if he gets the ball out quickly, it's not going to matter if guys aren't open or if the routes are being disrupted at the line. And that's exactly what Buffalo likes to do. They play physical. They disguise coverages. And they force quarterbacks into their second and third reads before the pocket collapses. So the Saints need to shorten the game. That means running the ball, moving the chains, and keeping Allen on the sideline. It sounds simple, but the margin for error is microscopic. One bad snap, one missed block, one drop pass, and suddenly you're punting again. And the Saints' special teams, which used to be a strength, have been anything but reliable. Last week was a disaster. Blocked punts, long returns allowed, coverage breakdowns. You cannot have those issues and expect to survive against a team like the Bills. And that's the key word here, survive. That's what this game is about for New Orleans. It's not about making a statement or shocking the world. It's about showing progress, showing that the disaster in Seattle was an outlier, not the beginning of a downward spiral. Because when teams start to spiral, when effort slips and mistakes repeat, that's when jobs start getting questioned. That's when the temperature rises on a coaching staff. And Kellen Moore may be in his first year as head coach, but the clock starts ticking the moment your team quits on you. It hasn't happened yet, but that's why Sunday matters. Not for the standings, but for the trajectory of the locker room. Now, for the Bills, this is a classic trap scenario. You've got a struggling opponent coming into your building, and everybody expects a win. That's when you can get caught slipping. If you start slow or come out sloppy, suddenly the underdog gets confidence, and the game drags into the second half tighter than it should be. That's not where Buffalo wants to live. They want to jump out early, dictate the tempo, and force the Saints into mistakes. And given the way the Saints have looked under pressure, that script would almost guarantee a win. But again, the NFL is wild. You get one bounce, one special teams play, one defensive turnover, and the whole thing can shift. That's what the Saints have to hope for. Capitalize on chaos. Because straight up, man for man, it's just not a fair fight right now. The Bills are playing for championships. The Saints are playing for direction. That doesn't mean they can't hang for a half or maybe even make it interesting in the fourth quarter, but it's going to take their best game of the season. And that starts with accountability, fixing the special teams disaster, cleaning up the penalties, and finally starting fast. If they can do that, if they can keep the score close and hang around into the third quarter, then maybe you get a chance to make a play. Maybe Rattler hits a deep shot. Maybe Kamara breaks a big one. But if it starts the way it did in Seattle, if it's 21-0 before the fans have finished their beers, then it's going to be another long, painful afternoon for New Orleans. That's the difference between good teams and rebuilding teams. Good teams find ways to win even when they're not at their best. Rebuilding teams have to be perfect just to have a shot. The Saints know that. They've lived it through 3 weeks. Now it's about how they respond. Do they come into Buffalo swinging? Or do they fold at the first sign of trouble? That's what we're going to find out this Sunday. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In what could only be described as one of the most shocking moments of the NFL season so far, Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott apparently lost his composure during a live broadcast, sparking an immediate frenzy among fans and analysts alike. Sources close to the situation claim that McDermott, visibly frustrated, openly admitted he wants a key player out of the Bills roster, a revelation that sent shockwaves through social media within minutes. The exact details of the outburst remain murky, but eyewitnesses at the live stream report that the coach's tone was uncharacteristically raw, hinting at a breaking point in what has been a tense season behind the scenes. Rumors are now swirling regarding which player could be on McDermott's chopping block. Speculation ranges from high-profile starters to veterans whose roles have been diminished this year. Some insiders suggest that locker room dynamics may have played a role, pointing to disagreements over strategy and team culture as potential catalysts for the coach's public outburst. Fans have been quick to dissect every word of the footage, with some interpreting McDermott's comments as a veiled warning, while others see them as a genuine plea for management to consider a trade. The timing of this revelation couldn't be more dramatic, with the NFL trade deadline looming and Buffalo still in the hunt for playoff contention. Analysts argue that if McDermott's desire for a departure is serious, the front office might be forced into a difficult decision: retain a star player and risk internal discord, or honor the coach's wishes and shake up the roster midseason. Meanwhile, social media platforms are ablaze with theories, memes, and heated debates, highlighting the intensity of the fanbase's reaction. Whether this was a moment of passion, frustration, or an intentional leak, one thing is clear. The Buffalo Bills are facing a storm of speculation that could redefine their season. McDermott's outburst has left the football world wondering not just about the player in question, but also about the stability and direction of a team that has long been regarded as a serious contender. The coming days will likely bring even more rumors as insiders and reporters scramble to uncover the truth behind one of the most talked about coach moments in recent NFL history. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.